I'm a mother, a grandmother, a crazy, a survivor, a lesbian, a woman. That's how
a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And you also have a professional life.
I do have a professional life. I work here at the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. I work in the Human Resources Department, and my role is to help HR here recruit and retain people with mental health and addiction challenges in their workforce. It's very challenging.
And you, in fact, meet with a group of staff who have mental health issues, and you have a kind of like a support group.
It's an affinity group. We're called the Unusual Suspects. US is the acronym, and we have representation from right across the center of staff, of management, pharmacy in that group. And these are all employees with mental health and addiction challenges in their background.
And I bet there's no other psychiatric hospital in the world that has a group like that.
What I tend to say is I believe, and I haven't studied it, but I believe that we're the only hospital that's actively recruiting crazies to work here.
How do you feel about that?
I feel very proud. I feel it's a really good step towards addressing the discrimination and the stereotypical views of people with mental health or addictions in their background. In my training for managers and directors and supervisors, I often use employees here from CAMH as role models to speak with them about the kinds of supports that they get on the job, if any, the kinds of issues that they face on a day-to-day basis, the challenges of trying to find work. What I've experienced here, the majority of people that I meet with have about a 5-year employment gap. These are largely people who have worked before, have undergone some kind of major event, and it's taken about 5 years for them to feel well enough to go back to work. And employers really hate employment gaps. It's like a big red flag.
Well, we've all had experience in trying to cover gaps in our resume, right?
It's interesting, in our HR meetings, the consultants talk a lot about how we have to really review the resumes closely and ensure managers are checking references. And I sit there and I say, this is really good for me because now I know what I have to work around.
Yes.
we just two different ends of...
Well, I have a 2-year gap in my resume.
Just a 2-year?
Yeah, just 2 years.
That's good.
Not so bad.
That's good.
You didn't always work for CAMH, Diana.
No. No.
In fact, you may have started here, but it wasn't as a worker.
I was in this institution when it was the Queen Street Mental Health Center. I was here in 1981 for a period, I think, of about 6 months. I don't rightly remember.
Had you lost your mind at that time?
Yeah. I was pretty out of it. In fact, my big sister put me here, actually physically brought me here.
Must have been a moment for her.
Yeah. I was kind of psychotic, and so I don't think she had much choice but to bring me here. It was a big shock to me to be in a provincial asylum. I was used to being in general hospitals, psychiatric units.
Really different, isn't it?
Yeah, big difference, yeah. I thought one of the buildings was the whole hospital. I didn't realize the scope of it. I loved being a student. I loved my placements, and one of my placements was the Parkdale Activity and Recreation Center.
Where your big sister was working.
My big sister was working. The staff at Park really encouraged me to keep up with my school. I had decided I'm not going to return to work. When I saw the want ad, I changed my mind, and I applied.
Because it was such an opportunity?
It was a really good opportunity, and it was something that intrigued me. The fact that there were a bunch of crazy people actually performing and taking responsibility for contracts. I thought was awesome.
Fresh Start was one of the very earliest survivor businesses. I think it was started in 1989. Pat Capponi was a catalyst for it. Jacques Tremblay worked on it.
Marc Lafontaine.
Right.
Yeah. I loved Fresh Start. There were people working with me at Fresh Start who had been in the same unit here with me. And I never would have imagined them to be able to get to work on time or to do what they had to do, and they just continued to amaze me. Really a tight group.
So they proved to you that survivors want to work, they
and can work. Yeah.
that they should get paid properly for their
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and I think that they showed, Fresh Start and other businesses showed the powers that be that their assumptions about our abilities were wrong.
She left and you took over.
Yes, yeah.
And you had a spectacular set of number of years at OCAB where you got to do a lot of stuff.
Development work, a lot of learning, a lot of advocacy, and a lot of employment opportunities.
Yeah.
That was the most awesome. And before I left OCAB, it had gone from folks only having one option, okay, you can work at Fresh Start or you can work at A-Way, to folks having 4 or 5 options. And the leaders of some of the businesses actually being angry when their employees would express interest to work somewhere else. And I thought, that's a job well done, because people now do have choice, they do have options. For the longest time, like most asylums, they have a little treat shop or a gift shop. Sometimes we see in courthouses or in town halls, we'll see shops where they employ people who are blind,
Exactly.
visually impaired. Well, it's much of the same scenario, except when it comes to asylums, they're always volunteers and ladies with gray hair. And I had advocated for a long time that the canteen here should be a business that could help train people and provide employment for folks. The argument back was, that's not really, we're not integrating people back into the community. If they're working here, it wouldn't be healthy for them to work here. And I would always challenge that and say, we need to divide up the economy here. If it's healthy for you, it would be healthy for me. Over time, my understanding is that a lot of the volunteers died off. Here at CAMH, there was an attempt to develop a community development corporation within the institution, and that community development corporation's first initiative was the canteen. And for 5 years, they paid people cash weekly under the guise of trainees.
And so it would have been run by social workers or...
Yeah, exactly, who had no idea about business. And so they got into a little bit of trouble with Revenue Canada, and at that point, OCAB was approached and asked if we would assume responsibility or ownership. That's what employment can do for people. It can give people a voice. It can raise people's expectations about themselves, about what how they should be treated. That also increases as people's confidence increase. And so the beauty about Out of This World is that a lot of the folks that work there now are people who are still inpatients, and there are people who have left this institution. And the role modeling is awesome. And when families come, when visitors come, and for the inpatients themselves to see people working, I think it sends a wonderful message out there, a really great message. And it's a tough business. I got to tell you, in the first year we owned it, the City of Toronto hired a whole bunch more inspectors to check out food services, and one inspector came and inspected Out of This World Cafe, and then inspected the other food provider here, who I won't name, and we passed and they failed. Yeah.
Cool.
That to me was joyous, yeah, because we were a little nervous.
But you see them every day.
Yeah, yeah. They come, it's so cool because they have a cart that actually they can take around with the big coffee urns and all the food that none of us should eat. And they go from each tower. They come to the West Wing every morning. Actually, Merlin, he's awesome. He comes right through HR and makes sure we all get our coffee every morning. When they're not here on time, we all get very tense. Yeah, she's a classic example of really strong-willed woman who didn't know. I think she said the other day she learned how to read at 34 years of age.
And to do her numbers. Right?
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary tale.
Yeah.
And it makes you happy, right?
Yeah. And to watch her work, It's not even work to watch her with some of the patients here. They're drawn to her like a magnet, right? And she always has a smile. And she does more than just her job at CAMH. She also has single-handedly led an Adopt a Pet program here at CAMH, and right now she's had at least 75 animals who've been fostered out to volunteers while their owners are in hospital. She believes strongly that that gives someone something to work for, to get out, to be reunited with their pets. And there was no other service that was doing that, not without great cost, right? And our folks don't have a lot of money, so she's been really, and that's all on her own time. A really big room with very high ceilings, chairs pushed against the walls, and
Like
it was
big
just
room, right? Really big.
yeah. People sitting against the walls, basically out of it, over-medicated, no activity. Didn't feel like a very nice space to be in. And I can recall when I was here all those years ago, I used to spend hours in the mall just to get out of the unit, right? You'd go down to the mall, and that's where you got your drugs and your illegal drugs, actually. A lot of stuff went on in the mall that was really quite awful. Recently, we were able to renovate the mall to include actually 4 computer stations that are totally unsupervised. That to me was a triumph, big time. I can die now that there's computers in the mall with no supervision. I think that
You didn't think that would happen?
no, and no program wanted to take responsibility for the computers, so we went ahead and we just did it. And if you go there now, you'll see the stations are full and they're busy, and it's opened from like I think 10 in the morning till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and a whole lot of clients can now access the internet via those computers. That was the beginning. That went so well that we then decided, how else can we improve this mall, right? Like, how can we make people feel more respected? How can we make it feel livelier? And Susan Piggott, who's our VP of Community Relations, was able to champion this to the board and get the resources so that we could finally furnish the mall in a more appropriate way. We have huge trees in there now. There's umbrellas and tables of different colors. It feels like a nice place to be. I see more clinicians down there now with their clients. Often clients are showing their workers their home countries via the internet, and it's just really moving to watch and see. And the CS Info Center is now in there, which is another awesome thing.
Survivor-run information
and
center.
resource center right dab in the middle of the mall. And so folks can now, and a lot of folks who don't even know that that place exists, can walk in and get really up-to-date information and find out about resources. It's just, we're referring to it now as a health promoting hospital. CAMH is trying to become a health promoting hospital, and that was a big, huge step. It is very cool. And it's kind of a contrast to what happens in inpatient units. In inpatient units, some of them won't even allow a person to have a laptop in a unit, right? So it's really...
Your ambition, obviously, is to affect what goes on in the inpatient units.
Absolutely, totally, yeah. If I had, when I was here, if I had access to somebody that also woke up one day in this place, it would have made a really big difference in how I felt about being here. And I suspect I would have left earlier than what I did. We've really hired people who can very closely relate to the scenarios that people are in when they're here. The Raging Spoon restaurant is a really large restaurant in the West End of Toronto, and the back end of the restaurant was huge. The Ontario Minister of Health was going around the province consulting with stakeholder groups, right? Up to that point, the survivor community really didn't have a space that would allow for people to come together and consult with the ministry in a space that was comfortable and safe for us. And so we got on the list, the OCAB got on the list for the minister to come visit and to hear from consumers themselves about what needed to change in the system. The morning of the consultation, of course, there was parts of the survivor community that felt we shouldn't even consult with them, you know, that they were just bad guys, and they had threatened to picket outside the Raging Spoon. And so that morning, all these like agents of the government
things in their ear.
yes, and trench coats came to me and wanted a list of who was going to come talk. I, of course, freaked out because I thought they're going to check me out, right? And you know, I don't have a very pretty background, so I was really worried. They were obsessive and paranoid. They stayed there all day. The minister came. I think there was over 100 people that showed up. And it used to be whenever we were consulted or whenever we were asked our opinion, we would like vomit out all those personal details and really had no sense of the system itself and its impact. We had no stats, we had no information. This was the very first time that speaker after speaker after speaker had the information and no one blurted or vomited out all the gory details, right? I was very proud of our community that day. That was a big day, and I don't think the minister could help but hear what we were saying. His was PSST, Psychiatric Survivors, something, I don't remember what it stood for.
It was like a listserv that...
And at one point, the Ministry of Health had threatened one of AWAY's positions and had threatened Fresh Start with taking some money back. And so we worked with AWAY Express couriers, and for one day, every half hour, an AWAY courier delivered a letter to the Ministry of Health. At the end of the day, apparently, the reception at the minister's office was like, don't they have any business elsewhere to do? Anyway, it worked. Between that and the piss list and all the complaints, Fresh Start was saved.
I've never heard that. That's a great story.
Yeah, it was awesome. Every half hour.